if he buys into the culture, if he accepts his role, then this is a knock it out of the park type signing.
Really quick, before I begin, if you guys can smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, this seriously makes a huge difference to my videos and lets YouTube know to recommend this video to a brand new audience. So thank you so much for doing that, and let's begin.
So let's start with Andre Drummond. The logic behind it is pretty simple. The Lakers, when they're all healthy, are equipped to be a phenomenal offense. Andre Drummond is an incredible rebounder, and as such, will either limit the opposing team's possessions or increase the number of possessions that the Lakers have. That will be, I think, the biggest way that he could impact the Lakers' ability to win. Add to that his ability as a roller, which is significantly lower than I think his reputation holds. Like, I think people just see 7-foot, previously athletic dude and say, oh yeah, that guy is, of course he's a phenomenal pick and roll finisher. What are we talking about here? But that isn't who he's been for at least a couple years. Now, maybe it was because he was in Detroit and then he went to Cleveland, two of the more depressing situations in the NBA. And as such, he didn't feel like risking his body until he got into a situation where he could do a little bit more winning. So, maybe that's what's going on. If that is indeed what's going on, then the Lakers could really be getting a really good player. And by the way, like a lot of the people who cover the Cavs and pay close attention to the Cavs, I've gotten a ton of messages saying, yeah, this guy could actually really help. And just watch, he might actually really help in the same way that Dwight helped last year. So if you've been missing Dwight Howard, you might get a version of that now. Now, Drummond has never been as good as prime Dwight was, and so Dwight, even in his decline, might be a more, how am I going to say this, a more of a winning player, given the way that Dwight approached the game last year than Drummond is right now. But Drummond is also 27 years old, which is about 7, I believe, years younger than Dwight was last year. He, at one point, was very athletic. He has very good hands, offensively and defensively. And so there are ways that he can really help this Lakers team. So, and then last but not least, maybe I should have mentioned this off the top, he's the most talented player that's going to be on the market this buyout season. There isn't going to be anybody with as few holes in his game as Drummond has. And that's relatively speaking because all of these players wouldn't be bought out if they didn't have holes in their game. Some of them are going to be a little older. Some of them are going to be less talented. Drummond is going to be the closest thing. He's in his prime, and he is a very talented basketball player. And it's just a matter of kind of guiding that talent to what it takes to win basketball games. And if the Lakers are able to do that, if he buys into the culture, if he accepts his role, then this is a knock it out of the park type signing. Hell, the fact we really might be sitting here, and there might be complaints on Twitter that the Lakers were able to get this guy without giving up anything. Seeing as where some trade negotiations were over the course of this season, whether it was with Dallas or New York or whomever, and I think that might very well be how this plays out. The other way that this might play out is he barely ever plays. It's a tricky fit, and he never fully buys into his the role that he needs to play to help win basketball games. And he moves on at the end of the season, and the Lakers just kind of say, well, all right, that happened. And then they move on as well. I would probably lean more towards, in this case, I'm more of an optimist because of what's at stake. Like, if Drummond screws this up, I don't know what offers he's looking at in the summer. I don't know where his career goes from here. We've seen it with guys his size in recent years where they just are out of the league. John Henson, gone. Andrew Bynum's career ended really quickly. Roy Hibbert was at one point one of the league's more important defenders, and then he wasn't. And then he was a Laker, and then he was never in the NBA again. And you could just kind of go through all of these, super-sized bigs who don't accept what it is that they need to do to be effective on winning basketball teams. And the ones who don't figure that out, like Dwight was a step away from being out of the league. And he realized what he needed to do to help a team win. He did that. The Lakers won, and he got another opportunity this year. And he's doing the same thing in Philly. And so long as he continues to do that, he'll probably stick in the league for another year or two. Longer, definitely longer than he would have, and maybe, longer than even he envisioned. So for Drummond, that's what's at stake. It's stake here for him. Like, it's not just that the Lakers have a ton at stake because they're trying to win a championship. Andre Drummond might have more at stake because he needs to do what it takes to stay in the NBA. And I think with that being the incentive and with this being the culture that the Lakers have, we should see a positive outcome here, I think.